Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial, bringing you coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split in English. I will still be your host, Alex, otherwise known as by Mars Swan on the air. And of course, I am joined by the incredible men themselves, Milky Cereal in the middle, Nymera over on the other side. Welcome, gentlemen, back to the cast.
We're back! We did it! We've done one game and we managed to survive. Got another one to go. Hopefully that doesn't get rid of us either.
Oh,
Yeah, we've had 3 games today. I've had one, and nothing's on fire yet, from what I see. So I'll take that as a positive.
Snow is falling from the sky, though. Strange things are happening.
we're not used to this in England. This is very confusing. I'm going to touch some wood because I've been told that that's an old wives' tale to make things good luck. Coming into this game, both of these teams will want a bit of luck as we're going to be seeing V3 Esports face off against Sengoku Gaming, and both these teams are looking to pick up their first win of the week, meaning one of these two teams will be going 0-2. That's a big upset because coming into this week, none of us expected this.
I don't think so either. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this thinking, okay, Sengoku could struggle, maybe, but Rassel we thought they'd be coming in much slower. In fact, what you were saying just there, Milky and I were talking about it all the way through, thinking, oh heck, actually, wait, these two teams were first and second in sub-regular split. That's a big change. Now, don't get me wrong, Sengoku in spring ended up finishing second in the regular split, ended up going up against DFM in that Juggernaut match, the upper bracket match of the LJL playoffs, and beating them 3-2. Huge upset, and managing to beat DFM in a best of 5 in the LJL basically doesn't happen. They started slow that split. Maybe they're hoping for a bit more of that in this spring too.
Start slow, go further on. Coming into this match, we saw V3 Esports have a pretty competitive game versus Detonation Focus Me, while towards the end, Detonation Focus Me started really screwing the wrench that is we know how to play around a map very well. We're very good at TPs. We're very good at map control. We know how to do this. It's textbook DFM play. We don't start seeing a lot of the other teams being able to adapt to that slightly later into the game. Well, later into the split normally, and sometimes even in summer, which is more reasonable. On the other side, though, the Sengoku coming into this, we were like, well, a lot of analysts predicted a lot higher. We over here on the LJLOU rated them a little bit lower than most. And so far, we look to have the 5-head brain going there, Twitch chat. I feel very smart right now. They lost to Rascal Jesters in that game you both just covered. Milky, coming over to you first. Where do you think this matchup's going? You've paid attention to some of these teams. You saw some of this matchup, and you even were on the side of Sengoku Gaming in the previous match.
Yeah, I was. I thought, it was a new team. I thought they'd all be able to synergize pretty well. In the end, I think, whether it was they weren't able to synergize well or it was issues with the draft or a combination of both, in the end, it didn't work out. I think for this game, it is V3. They weren't able to match Destination Focus Me. But again, DFM have a largely unchanged roster. V3 have a changed roster. So it's still, they're going to have to be the ones that are, improving to get back up to that same caliber of macro that they previously had. And I think if there's been any kind of storyline today, it's been that the new teams with the new players just have not been able to close out games, that have just struggled that little bit more. And I think V3, I think they're going to be able to take this one.
Unless you're Rascal Jester, then apparently you've already started to figure out your lineup. Sengoku Gaming actually were able to pull the lead against Rascal Jester, and V3 actually did the opposite against DFM. They actually fell behind, started to wrench it into the mid game, and actually pull control away from DFM before DFM did what they did. Nymera, coming to you for this one, V3 Esports or Sengoku, who's getting the early game, and does that mean a transition into mid to late game that's going to be profitable? It's so hard for you to answer this, I know, but I'm going to ask it for you.
It's a really hard question. I'm gonna give it.
You've only seen one game.
I'm gonna give it over to V3 because I do really like the way that Muujin and Cog were playing together. Of course, they did have like the Nidalee, and Nidalee does make it really easy to go topside all the time. You also have Reiner down in support. Reiner had a really good game versus the FM too. He was like he cancelled an Alistair headbutt with a Thresher. That's really tight timing to do that on. It seems that he's kind of in that mode in the zone, and I'm looking at V3 and thinking, a lot of the players I want to see doing well if they want to come into this split and again get themselves up into those title contending matches are playing well. So I'm going to give it to V3 over Sengoku based on that first game performance, which is of course not the most information to go off of.
No, and that's also partly results-orientated thinking, which doesn't really tell you too much of anything outside of one ape did good this time, the other ape did better the other time. What will the monkeys do? And we all look at each other and go, I don't know.
Write Shakespeare on a typewriter. We know this.
Exactly. I'm glad you're on the same page as me, because if people are just hearing me talk about monkeys, they'll be like, what is this guy saying? The players are monkeys? No, obviously not.
Do you have Wukong? Is there a Wukong? No?
Paz does like playing Wukong, though, in the past. Actually, not a crazy analogy. Coming into this, though, Nymera, you've already given your predictions. You're going V3 favored in this. Are you going to double down and say they're going to be the victors in this game?
This time, I think I will do. I wondered if Sengoku would come in hot with a lot of their solo queue individual talent. Doesn't look like that, whereas V3 look more together.
Yeah, Crash had big expectations placed upon them coming into their long lineage of players coming from the PCS region and coming in here and just blowing up and really performing really well. Mostly thinking Baby and Boogie in recent memory for that one. Milky, coming to you. What's your prediction? Similar to the early game, but more about the overall result.
Yeah, I'm still sticking on V3. I mean, maybe Moss1 and Nymera, you can clarify this for me, but was the switch in the top lane for V3 to get rid of Paz and bring in Cog? Was that a case of Paz wanting to leave or V3 wanting an upgrade?
Oh God,
gosh.
you're asking that on cast.
Okay, that
Okay.
is-
I'm gonna touch the dangerous subject here.
He wanted to leave, from what we're aware of.
However, we do know that there was a lot around like the dissolution of the V3 lineup, which was not the most happy of leavings. Of course, Archer and Boogie, really strong players in that lineup, so we're really sad to see them leave that region. But it looks like V3 have pieced together once again a pretty strong roster, so maybe Paz has missed a trick on staying with them.
Maybe Ace in that mid lane and Reiner still hanging around really helps. Go on, go on, Milky.
Yeah, so I'm still sticking on V3, but you know the two of the players they've brought in, you know, Hollow, Sandbox Gaming in 2019, Mujin, ex-Flash Wolves player has been in Korea 2019 and 2020. So, you know, on paper these two look like good additions to the roster. I've got faith in V3 that they're going to make this roster work, and while it might not be flawless against Sengoku Gaming, I think it'll be enough to beat them.
Well, that makes 3 for 3 on the analyst desk in favor of V3. Will it be victory 3, though? We will have to find out, as I believe it's time to go over to the pick and ban phase. So, gentlemen, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Mass1. Sorry, I took a second to change some scenes, and of course that means I don't get to see Milky's face and see when he's actually moving his lips, which is a bit unfortunate. I'm gonna take it now because I've started speaking. On the blue side, we've got Sengoku, we have Paz, Crash, Ramune, Gango, and NC. Milky, take V3 away.
Yeah, so the set and the Galio have been banned instantly, the Pantheon as well, but I'm still very curious to see this top lane matchup, Paz versus Cog. Is this a bad change for V3? Is it a good change for them, or is Paz going to laugh in the face of his former team?
Very good question, because Paz at points has been really, really good on the likes of Aatrox. Very meta right now. Renekton, oh, that's pretty meta too. Whereas Cog does play a bit more of the weirdness, plays a bit of Kennen, plays a bit of Kale, plays a bit of those more carry-oriented style top laners. If we do get ourselves a skill matchup in that top lane, I love that you've hit on that topic. I love that you've asked the hard questions, because that's what gives you the drama. That's what gives you some fun things to talk about in game.
Is there any chance that we get Cog cubed and we get Cog on the Cog more?
Oh, you know, I sometimes, when I type out his name in shorthand, I do Cog Squad. It is my little pet name for Cog. Really, he's got a great name. It's very characterful. What is also characterful, I guess, is the bans, because we've got a lot of varied stuff this time. It's not just saying, oh, we're just going to go towards this one kind of aspect. We saw that the Olaf, one of those aggressive junglers, taken away from Crash, as you were saying earlier, and it's the Renekton first pick for Paz. So about that whole top lane rivalry thing, first pick on the Renekton.
Yeah, and it's something that always kind of, you know, piques my curiosity because, you know, as a cast in the UK and watching LEC and stuff, Renekton, you know, doesn't always do that well. But then whenever I watch the likes of the LCK or the LPL, Renekton is just such a staple in the top lane. And it's no surprise that it's locked in. Nidalee Kai'Sa coming through from V3. Kai'Sa's just been huge this patch. We've talked about it, and the Taliyah in the jungle for the side of Sengoku Gaming.
So Kai'Sa, very much priority AD carry, we know that, and we've seen a lot of AD carry succeed on that. It's not going to be the Xayah. Oh, by the way, Draven is actually a Gango special. If we see that, that would be something special. It's not going to be that Noxian AD carry, though. It's going to be Samira once again, and when you have a bit more of that beefy front line as opposed to the Gangplank, so it's the Renekton instead, maybe Samira's got a bit more room to play with in team fights.
I really like the Samira pick as well because it's. I've been seeing it. We've been seeing it a lot against the Kai'Sa. You know, people talk about having the Aphelios against the Kai'Sa, but of course that was already banned by the side of Sengoku Gaming. But into the Nidalee Spear, you know, you've got that portable wall that can just block any form of engage. And now with the Gragas picked up as well, I'm not quite sure, but can Samira actually block an explosive cast?
You can, yes. In fact, interesting thing. So back in Season 5, when Gragas Jungle was first coming back after the Season 3 Gragas mid lane, which was so obnoxious to play against and something which the likes of Faker and all those other mid laners back then made such a name on. When you go back to Season 5, the counter to Gragas, who had the instant barrel at melee range, was Braum, because you just put up a shield, it blocks projectiles, and it means that you do explode the barrel, but at least it shoves you all away rather than into the enemy team. You use that Samira W, as long as you don't get CC chained by the flash body slam into it, you can block that ability.
Yeah. Well, the Gragas picked up, and it will be Gragas. So we've been seeing that happening a lot, especially in the LEC. But it is a double AP topside right now. The Gnar and the Alistar being banned away in Phase 2.
Okay, so now you're thinking, well, what can survive a Renekton until a combo? Gangplank Ornn, typically, because you got the W on the Ornn to make you unstoppable, and Gangplank gets to cleanse away some of that CC, and you get to, bully around Renekton with your parlays too, depending on Renekton's access to the wave, getting those empowered abilities by auto-attacking the wave loads of times and getting those empowered Ws for huge amounts of trades. Kokog does play some weirdness in the top side, like we said. I'd love to hear and see, of course, what Kokog's thoughts on the Renekton counters are, and it's going to be the Yone taken away from V3. I wonder if that was towards mid lane or top lane.
I mean, I was kind of expecting to see an AD top lane, an AD mid lane, just so that you don't have triple AP on that top side of the map. And the Leona locked in, so it's not going to be a Gragas support. It is definitely Gragas top, and I was kind of wondering about that because the Gnar was banned by Sengoku Gaming, so clearly they had some question marks about it.
So you have the free targeted dash, which means that if you think you're in danger, you just get the tech out of dodge, and you have that, if you go into that tank build, you do get really tanky, even with the AP build, right? You get to go Zhonya's, you get to have your Drunken Rage giving you that damage protection. On the other side, so this is patch 11.1. This is pre-Maokai support nerf, since it has the Imperial Mandate nerf, and also his scaling on his sapling toss, going into bush and stuff like that. Having a lot of damage taken off them. It goes from like 1% damage to 0.8% damage, extra damage per 100 AP that you have. We'll have a Ramene's pick in the mid lane, gotta presume, unless you got some weirdness with like a Lucian top lane. It's going to be Lucian mid, I would assume. And that means that V3's ace has counter pick in the mid lane.
Yeah, I personally quite like the Lucian because, you've got these two AD solo laners with the AP jungle. It matches up like that, and I think, Renekton Lucian can get a lot of early game pressure. Let's see what they can pull out. If this Kalista comes in, this is going to be a spicy mid lane matchup, but it's not. It's the Jace coming through. So my question to you, Nymera, is this Jace top or is it Gragas top? Not looking at what's getting
so this is the thing, right? So Ace is a Jace player. It's his most played champion across his career, but the last time they played it, when V3 were playing DFM earlier in the day, Kokog took that pick. It was a really strange switch about. You're thinking, oh wait, V3 have this speciality pick in the mid lane, but they can flex it now. Double AD carry marksman in that mid lane. Jace more towards that shock blast combo for poke purposes. But whereas in the last game that Sengoku played, we're thinking, okay, the follow-up's a bit weird right now. They don't really get to follow up as cleanly as they would like to. When you have that Lucian who can go something like Gale Force, of course, you can dash in and follow up on the plays that Renekton and Taliyah are making with a bit more ease.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether that does come through. Otherwise, would it be something like the likes of the Kraken Slayer or maybe even Duskblade? Who knows?
Oh, gosh. Oh, no, not Invisible Lucian. I don't need that. It's like Senna's E attached to Lucian's kit, where like you just randomly kill someone, goes invisible, and you're like, oh, no, I can't target him. This is awful. It's the Master Lucian of the mid lane. Yep, that's the one. You've got Master Yi Duskblade. Have you played against Dark Harvest Duskblade Yi yet? It is, it's not fun.
I definitely don't have a second account that I play on jungle, and I'm playing Gi, Duskblade, Dark Harvest. No,
Heck
no.
yeah.
Actually, no. Wait, hang on. I got Hail of Blades,
That's the
Duskblade.
one.
It is
Lovely.
fun. Yeah.
Maybe
It
Dark
is
Harvest is
disgusting. Yeah.
ARAM only. Either way, won't be in this game. Do have, of course, those lethality. Well, the lethality builder of Jace in the mid lane for Ace. Going back to that comfort pick, and it's been a while since we've seen it. We've often ragged on Ace's Jace because he's not necessarily made it the most impactful champion, but it's comfort. He's done a lot of good things in the laning phase with this champion. At least makes himself relevant in terms of CS and gold. And when you've got a bit more of this team fight from Reiner and the likes of Leona, pinning someone in place so that Shock Blast is almost a guaranteed hit, and then have the Nidalee Spear involved too, seems like a pretty decent combo to me.
Yeah. The only real issue that I have right now with the side of Sengoku Gaming, or pardon me, with the side of V3, is the fact that they have to face face against the Samira, and four of the champions from the side of Sengoku Gaming, four of the champions from the side of V3 Esports, pardon me, have these, projectile-based attacks. You've got the Void Seeker from Kaiser Shaw. The Void Seeker is not a huge thing, but it can deny that killer instinct from coming through. The Shock Blast is huge from Jace. The Javelin Toss is huge from the Nidalee. And of course, the Explosive Cask is huge from Cog. So I've just got this big question mark. If Gango is good with that wind wall, I think it's going to make things very difficult for V3.
My counterpoint to that is, okay, yes, lots of things that can be that can be blocked by Samira's spin wall, as I like to call it. But on the other side of it, there's so much stuff you can force that Samira to use it in an inopportune situation. We saw that in the last game. Remember, the Swell Sea comes in, and then they use the W to block out the Void Seeker because they don't want the Kaiser coming through, which means that there's nothing to stop the Lilia ult coming through. If you use that and say you block out a Shock Blast, what happens if that W lands? What happens if Kaiser flies in, gets that single target Q, the auto attacks with the Hail of Blades, and just slaughters your AD carry straight out? Then you wish you had 2 or 3 more of those Ws from Samira.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing to bring up as well is you talked about if that Gragas can get in with the body slam. Once he's in, you aren't stopping that explosive cast from landing, and hopefully he does a little bit better with his combos than Wanda was doing for G2 Esports on the Gragas, where, well, he wasn't very certain about how to execute the Gragas.
That's okay. I heard that a world champion by the name of Duenby played Malphite and used indicators to check the range of the ult for the first 2 ults of the game and then changed it to Smartcast when they remembered what ult range it was. It can happen if you're good enough and you know that it fits the composition. You don't necessarily have to play on the edge of the mechanical ability. You can still get a lot of value out of these picks. In fact, going a little bit further on that, because, we've got a bit of time in the early game. We see this 5-man fan doesn't look like we're going to get any level 1 invades. Do you remember a player by the name of Darian Milky Cereal from the old Moscow 5 Gambit lineup?
I don't. That sounds like
Oh.
something from before my time.
That was Darren. Let me tell you the tale of Darren. He was known as the Swag Lord, and what he would do is he would first time champions on stage that his teammates thought would be good for the composition. He would first time Shyvana, first time Nasus or something just random, just thinking, oh, we want a flex pick, we want to pick something new, and it ended up doing a lot of work for that team. Now, I'm not saying many players do that nowadays, nor should you, because the game has evolved a lot since Season 2, Season 3, but there has been a history of that in the pro play.
Yeah, and I think, one of the biggest reasons you can't really do that right now is because so many of the new champions and so many champions now just have such a higher skill floor. You need to have actually played a
Absolutely
couple
agree.
of games to get used to it. But then again, like, I just can't understand it because, the first time I play Yumi, I inted my ass off completely.
Good
So I
choice
have
of
no
words.
idea how people can just pick up Shyvana for the first time or just yell first time Yasuo and just completely obliterate the game.
I mean, there are always times when you think, okay, well, Ivan Top's coming into meta. Ivan's not the most mechanically intensive champion. He can definitely work if these top lanes have never played that jungle role before and had a chance to play Mr. Ivan in that jungle. But of course, going into the game, these players not really playing too much of the new champions, except a couple of them are, of course. This is Hollow's first game of Kaiser, and this is going to be Ramene's one of their first games too, because they've only played 1 game of that Lucian before, so something on either side, which hopefully they've practiced off stage, and this isn't just a stage special, to bring these champions out in this game.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the supports because both supports pretty much the only tanks on the team. We talked a little bit about Gragas potentially being that somewhat tanky member for the side of V3 Esports, but he's never going to be that kind of Leona, Maokai factor. And these two are, the huge engages for each side, as we see a Zenith Blade coming through from Reina, and a nice little trade, but that is all. So I want to talk about the engage possibilities for each
Mm.
team, essentially. And, is the Leona going to be bigger than the Maokai in this situation?
So Maokai is mainly here for the poke. The flash W is always a thing. Point and click engage is really, really cool. But Reiner on the Leona showed this during the finals of the summer split, last split, of course, and that was against Gangs Leona from DFM, this player who's of course taken his backseat to allow for Kazu to come in and allow Arya to play in that mid lane for Detonation Focus Me. But Leona was such an important pick that series, and it was played massively well by both of the supports in there. Reiner, I absolutely trust with this engaged pick, and it will be important because, as we said, it'll pin people in place for the likes of Gragas, Nidalee, and Jace, who do need to be hitting those skill shots. And speaking of pinning people in place, the Renekton Leer combo coming up top lane, but Kogog's made it out safely.
Yeah, but here comes Muujin, and the Javelin Toss is going to be able to find his mark. Slicing and dicing his way to safety. Crash shows up, Paz forced to flash away, sidesteps the Javelin Toss, and that was a close as Paz got a little bit too aggressive with that farm denial.
Definitely goes beyond where he was welcome, because you're there as the Renekton Leer. Fantastic combo, but Nidalee goes top as well, and now going into the mid lane, Muujin's making their presence felt.
Yep, Muujin is indeed Ramune on the run, able to sidestep the Javelin Toss. The pounce forward, Ramune gets taken low. Muujin will take a turret shot, and Muujin will just make his way to the bottom side of the jungle. Now the question is, do Sengoku Gaming try to contest, and Crash will show up, and he'll say, well, Muujin, thank you very much for the leash.
And for the first time this split in game, I'm going to bring out the B word, and the B word is Boogie, because V3's jungler of last year of 2020 was pivotal to V3's success. What Muujin's been doing, showing up top lane, getting a flash, staving off that gank, immediately going mid lane, making sure that Ramune has to be very careful in that mid lane, going and stealing some Raptors. That feels like the kind of confidence that V3 had when they were playing around that other PCS jungler in Boogie in that last year. And for Muujin to follow in that footsteps, very important for this team.
Look at Reyna and Hollow. Zenith Blade comes through, and the focus is going to be onto the Maokai. The second skin has been procced. NT taken low. Void Seeker tanked by Gango. And V3 Esports will come out on top in the bottom side trade. But no kills just yet. First blood still on the table.
But there's... Oh, no. Renty going for the flash forward, trying to look for that twisted advance because Crash was ready and waiting, but doesn't actually press the button. Pulls off, but after the summon has been used.
That was unfortunate for NT, and that is just a flash down. Maybe he just wants to sit in bushes and hex flash from now on.
I mean, a load of supports take that. It's really useful. People like Set and Leona, they can just end up finding these engages over the weirdest walls available and finding something out of nothing. But NT will be reduced to that half a summoner spell, I guess, maybe even less than that on the Maokai. But honestly, we've had 6+ minutes of play now, and we've not really found any of these big advantages just yet.
Yeah, good Void Seeker from Hollow as well, spotting NT and Gango just waiting behind the wall. You were talking about those weird walls to engage from, and NT had found one of those walls. I'm going to hex splash over this wall. And Hollow says, nah, I know exactly where you are.
Absolutely. And this goes back again to something which it's something which I've been focusing on when I've been looking at my analysis of teams recently, is about what's happening with information flow and how can you tell what's actually being said in comms, even if you don't have access to them? Well, if you need intricate information to start playing around stuff like where the jungler is on the top side of the map and Cog's intuition about where he should be standing in the lane, that's communication. Cog doesn't end up falling for anything just yet, but Ramune's top side needs to be very careful as this wave crashes into turret. Muujin's here already, though.
Yeah, Muujin is. Ace doesn't have TP to join in the fight. Dominus has been dropped. Cut off the Meek. Will see down. Coco Crash taken down low. Does Muujin want to go in? He will eat a light slinger to the face, and Muujin might look for an audacious javelin toss. Pounce over the wall. Can he connect?
Oh, he's running into Lucian. Ramuna gets hit. But again, these are 2 dives, which Sengoku tried to pull off in this top laner, and Muujin just stopped them in their tracks. Massively impressed by this Nidalee play, even in this early 7.5 minutes of play. You were talking about, oh, these old teams and the new teams trying to outdo each other in the early game. Well, V3, they've replaced a couple of parts. They do have a couple still there at Ace and Reiner, but it's the new kid on the block in Muujin who's really making an impact felt, even though there are no kills on the board just yet.
And V3 now going to go flash forward into the Zenith Blade. Javelin toss the pounce and the kill. Muujin gets a first blood for V3 Esports. Beautifully done.
Something old, something new. Ryan, one of the veterans of this roster, alongside Muujin, take down Paz, who was on the V3 squad for First Blood in their second game of 2021 spring. They're going to take a Herald, or at least start it up in this top side as an extra follow-on effect of that play. And V3 find themselves the first foothold in this game.
Yeah, but again, as we have seen so often this day, so often today, getting that first foothold, getting that early game advantage does not necessarily mean the game. Hex Flash over the wall from NT. This is going to be the 3-man collapse onto V3. Actually, no, they say, you know what? Never mind. We don't have the wave. We're out.
They don't have the wave, they're out, and actually on the other side of that, the spin wall used by Gango to block out the Zenith Blade, because Reiner and Hollow saying that, you're not coming through turret, like, these people aren't going to bother us. We can start all-inning onto the Samira. Now they're pushed up in lane a little bit more, they're not quite under turret. NT still has that Hex Flash, and Crash has the Weaver's Wall on this bottom side of the map. Could be very dangerous for the V3 duo.
Yeah, and let's see if Crash wants to go in. The level 6 available for NT, so he has that Twisted Advance. But so far, I've seen a lot of setup from Crash. You know, he's identified this top lane. He knows that he wants to get Paz ahead on the Renekton. But every time he seems to go for these turret dives, every time he wants to pull off a dive, he just can't. And now Muujin, the one time he wants to look for a dive, it looks like it should be able to work out. But Crash will look for something of his own. A good killer instinct over the wall. And now it is just Reina all by their lonesome. 4-on-1 Leona. Leona is tanky, but not that tanky. Reina will be able to pick up the kill. Kokog able to survive on the top side of the map.
But they don't have themselves a Herald to take down the turret. And actually, I think Hollow might be able to walk up to this wave and claim some of that CS. It's a kill onto Leona. It goes onto Lucian. That's important. Lucian snowballs very well. But you're losing your mid lane turret. 5 plates on the mid lane turret share between Muujin and Ace. It's the first turret of the game too. As a net gain, I think this goes over to V3.
Yeah, and all I can really say from this is Muujin has played this so well. Every time Crash has looked for something, Muujin has been there. When Crash hasn't looked for something, Muujin's been gone doing something else. 1 Drake already to V3, Rift Herald as well. First Blood for V3 is all going very well for them.
Lots of positives of V3 in this early game. You're absolutely right. 1,000 gold lead at the 10-minute mark. As I was saying in one of those previous games, it's a 10% gold lead. You put it in that kind of factor, you think, oh, that seems a little bit more nice rather than just 1,000 gold. Do you prefer it to be a little bit larger, coming up to this second dragon fight, spawning the Infernal Dragon in the next 30 seconds, and we have ourselves a pause, but you know what? Because we're doing this as a blast from the past, I can check exactly how long this lasts for, and it looks like we will be into game again relatively shortly.
Mad hacks. Fast forwarding time. How do you do it, Nimo?
I do it by pressing the right arrow key until I see gameplay. That's what I actually do. It's a wizard's trick, I hear. It's just one of those things which happens. And of course, being in the UK, we love ourselves some LJL, but the time zones are not kind to us. We don't particularly want to be casting at about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and what that does lead to is that we end up having to cover some of these games just a little bit later in our schedule. We cover them the day after, which is exactly what we're doing now. So thank you so much for supporting our English coverage of the LJL, because honestly, this region has been so entertaining. I came into this cast in 2020 thinking, okay, right, well, it's an emerging region. They've not really done much internationally. What have they got to offer? A heck of a lot of entertainment, apparently.
And see, look what you've done, Nightmare. You missed us. You missed another Drake being secured.
No, I didn't do anything. No. I didn't do. No.
Right.
I just, well, it's hacks from the LJL side.
It's what happens when you try to time control and like jump into the future. Sometimes you overshoot by a little bit, right?
It's the problem, because I mean, people think that we're called. Why aren't we called commentators? Isn't that what regular sports do? It's like, no. We're casters because we have magical capabilities, and that does involve casting spells which alter the flow of time itself. We're like well, not like that one anime with the whole reset thing, which all that kind of stuff. But I like to think that Amelia is still best skill. Yeah. No reaction to that
anymore. No, we're not talking.
I pretend I do not see, and now it is a solo cast. Welcome to the solo cast of Sengoku versus V3.
While Milky just makes annoying sounds in the background, mainly just being Rembes girl the entire way through.
Well, I think that both of these teams will be hoping that AD carries are the best girl on this map in that sense of things, because they have a lot of weight on their shoulders. This Samira, this Kai'Sa need to do their weight worth in this game, because they are the prime DPS examples of what's happening. But right now, Mugen is making sure Holo's not under any undue stress in this bot lane. You know, just got to protect Mr. President.
Yeah, throws out a javelin toss, almost connects onto Ganga, but not quite. I like that segue. You just missed one thing. Diona's best goal on this rift. So
you know, there was that there was that voting for skins thing recently in terms of like the Debonair and the Monster Tamers and the Crime City Nightmare thing. I actually really like the look of the Debonair Leona skin, so I actually ended up voting for that. Of course, there was a Malzahar one too, and I thought,
I haven't seen that vote.
It was on client. You can vote for the next optional skin line, and honestly, it's really... Wait, is that Mugen and Ace fighting over Krugs and then just recalling when one of them steals it? Guys, you're on the same team. Try and help each other, thanks.
Oh, Mugen saying, it's mine. And Ace says, but look, I'm walking down to mid lane. I'm wasting my time. Just give me the Krugs. It's not like you need it. I'm like a Jace. I'm supposed to like do damage early game. You're Nidalee. You'll be strong anyway.
Mum said it was my turn on the Krugs as Mugen takes them and Ace just try and steal away a couple. I guess we should check in across maybe some of the individual advantages or actually the lack thereof, even in the top lane, even in the bot lane. Mid lane, relatively even too, and within a camp or two in the jungle too at 14 minutes in is not really much to be spoken about. What we could segue off of that is saying, well, what did we expect to happen? I think that honestly, Renekton and Taliyah should be crushing this Gragas. This shouldn't be surviving as well as it is. That is a testament to how well Mugen has played this defensive early game and keeping these players pinned down. See Mugen once again on that top side, keeping Paz accountable, and that's kept Kog'Kog in this game.
Yeah, and now Paz getting hit by another javelin toss. But yeah, so far, the fact that everything's so even has to be a good thing for V3. They're playing the Gragas into the Renekton. Even, you could say, the Kai'Sa into the Samira. They've already got a turret in the mid lane. 1 turret to 0 in favor of V3. There's a Rift Herald up. Ace is going to be able to secure a turret. And now V3 can look back towards the Rift Herald. And all the members of V3 coming up. Solar Flare will connect into the rest of the engage. It'll be a 1-for-1 as out comes the culling. Kog'Kog flashes away, and it will just be the 1 kill for either side. Both supports falling as they so often do in team fights. And now we're just going to be seeing Sengoku Gaming looking for the Rift Herald. But V3, they're not necessarily done yet.
They're not done yet. Both supports gone. As you were saying, Kog'Kog has no cask, does have the body slam, but he misses. Oh, he gets it onto Ramune.
Body slam onto 2. That's a really good seismic shove. Holo going into the backline with a killer instinct. Gango solo. So is Paz. So is Ramune. Shock blast comes through. Flash forward. And that's the Gale Force coming in huge. Holo will pick up the kill. 3 kills to 3. Another kill going both ways. Who secured the Rift Herald? I'm pretty sure it's Mugen because he's looking a little bit purple right now.
We have ourselves a number of Koreans in the region, but we never had Huni. But you know who we do have? Holo. Ults in, gets the killing blow onto Paz with the fade away Q. Makes it look stylish. First game on Kai'Sa, doesn't seem like that's a problem. Gonna go back over the replay of this fight because Kog'Kog has the flank, and basically because he's behind enemy lines, it means that this fight has to come through. Taliyah's really good at punishing anyone that dashes and dives in too deep. Crash gets a lot of damage down, and suddenly you're left without the primary tank from the side of V3. What happens after this? Kog'Kog rather takes the long way around, and Ramune somehow gets caught just on the edge of that hitbox. That gives the plasma stacks for Holo to come in, and Gango loses way too much HP on the intro to that fight and can't continue things onwards. And then this happens. The heal comes through, the flash away from the Renekton, but single target Kai'Sa Q does damage.
Yeah, and it's what you talked about. If Kog'Kog can get into the backline, if he can find that body slam, things will start to go well. V3, having secured that Rift Herald, they now look for their second Drake of the game. They've only lost 1 objective so far, and we are 17 minutes into the match.
We are. So, again, it's one of these games where we don't have, like, early dragon stackings all going the way of one team. Got 2 to V3, 1 to Sengoku. Paz being forced off of this turret. I'm not sure it's going to lead to... Definitely going to lead to anything if you're not going to hit that Zenith Blade. What it will do is open up this bot lane outer turret to be taken by V3. They have a Herald for the second one. Mugen managed to keep that one away after that fight, and this could be a 2-tower push, while Ramune is still pushing the top lane, and probably going to be a trade across the map.
This could even be the inhibitor turret as well, taking a huge chunk of damage because Hollow is stopping Gango from resetting in the mid lane. And actually now Reiner's going to rotate and potentially look for a collapse, although Gango is aware of it and will move away. But V3, they're taking everything. I mean, usually we talk about the second Rift Herald not being that influential, but V3 have made it work.
They have. It's a split map, so we still have the top lane outer turret standing for Sengoku and the bot lane outer turret for V3 also still standing. It does mean that some of the gold from, say, Cog is taken away because he's lost a lot of farm on that top side of the map. Ramade's picked up a lot on the other side for Sengoku because he's just pushed in a tower, taking all the waves on that top side too. The big things about this now is that, well, why are towers important? Yeah, they give gold, but they also give control over a certain area of the map. V3 have that bot lane outer turret, so when it comes to the next dragon, they have a few more angles to attack from, and they deny Sengoku the vision and the wave push in that bot side because that outer turret's still standing. On the other side, the same can be said about Sengoku around that Baron area, but of course with their mid lane turrets being felled so quickly, that also isn't working out in their favor though.
Yeah, so the question then becomes, what is more important to either team right now? Is it having control over the Drake, or is it having control over the Baron pit?
Well, as it seems to be for Sengoku, they flipped the map once again, taking that bot lane out of turret and saying we want both sides of the map a bit more open, maybe so we can use that Weaver's Wall to start playing around side lanes as Talia so often does. But Ace, much like the Lucian on the other side for Ramune, really good about pushing out these towers. Builds lethality, has that hypercharge on the W in ranged form, means you do tear through these turrets after those plates have fallen.
Okay, so now we're at a stage where both sides can access the jungle fairly easily. And now it's just a case of whoever's stronger in the fight and whoever can show their presence and say, get out, I am warding here, go, shoot.
Absolutely. But I mean, you look at these tower trades, but V3 have been trading up across the entire game. 5 turrets to 2. Yeah. V3 have their mid lane outer turret. Sengoku don't even have their inner turret in that same lane. We talked about that again in terms of Baron control, and it's so often one of those things. I mean, when the Baron dance initially well, that terminology came around again in the earlier seasons of League of Legends. Having push in the mid lane was such important. It's why some teams ended up ARAMing or words to the same effect, because if you can push in waves just like what's happening now, it gives you better access, as you were saying earlier, to that jungle, gives you vision, gives you different angles of attacks, and when you can flank with the likes of Flash, Cask from this Gragas, when you've got the Leona and the Maokai in its own way too, right, and the Renekton, it's very important to have that jungle vision to secure your approach.
Now, Mary, you brought up something earlier, and it was, why are we called casters and not commentators? It's because we bring in magical powers, we can tell the future. I want you to do a little bit of your magical casting powers now.
Oh, you want me to perform on command? Okay, cool.
To explain why or what is going to happen in the next few minutes, what is going to cause the fight, what is going to be, that snapping gauge, if it even is going to be a snapping gauge.
Well, V3 are going to take the second dragon. Oh no, I'm looking into the past. God, no, I've got to recalibrate. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're still probably going to see Hollow station in the mid lane, and I guess looking at the camps available and the minute up until Dragon, looking for this mid control. But because these objectives are spawning so close to each other, we're probably going to see a bit of that push and shove coming across multiple lanes, trying to set up the map in their favor. Reiner doing their best to get rid of some of NT's saplings they've set up in the last couple of minutes. But now that they've ended up resetting, they're going to go to the other side of the map. Sengoku once again doing that vision battle. What this is going to come down to is really what's going to happen with this vision game into these first objectives, or will we just see a trade because one side has been prioritized too much by one team over the other?
Well, we will have to see whether there'll be a trade of a Baron for
Rift. Ramana, you didn't hit a single shot.
Well, they call it the culling, but Ramune has just called thin air, and V3 say, all right, we're going to go over to Baron. You can just see how many red trinkets there are in the top side river, and Sengoku Gaming, well, they don't want to head over to the Drake just yet. They'll clear out this control ward in the river brush. Will it be a handshake? Will V3 take Baron, and Sengoku say, okay, we'll just take a mountain for ourselves? V3, at the moment, they don't really seem to care about the Drake. They're just making sure that they keep control over the top side
And
river.
the reason they probably don't care about it is not just the wards, but all these Maokai saplings too. They do a lot of damage, but there's a 2-man Baron start starting from the side of V3. Sengoku, though, doing exactly the same, well, at least the same kind of theory on the dragon. They've got the one person taking it down. They do secure that. 2 dragons apiece on this mountain rift, whereas V3 peel off the Baron. Don't really get much for it. But at least they don't end up losing a team fight or anything like that, or by contesting one of these objectives through an enemy terrain and all of those saplings. You can see right there, hits 2 people, does a lot of damage onto Cog and Hollow.
And this is what happens, if you try to handshake a Drake for a Baron, the side that's handshook and gone for Drake, they can sneak out that Drake and take it much quicker than you and then backstab you when you want to take that Baron because it takes you so long this early in the game to get through the Baron.
But you can see why Maokai is such a pain. Jin Maokai is even worse than this because you get to put down Jin traps too. On these approach to objectives, you get to, well, if you're doing it on the offensive side, and you can check brushes with those saplings. He's doing it right there, spots out Reiner, but Reiner's going in with the Zenith Blade.
Good Zenith Blade. Solar Flare will not connect. The culling comes through. Hollow forced to flash away. So quite a few summoner spells have been used as well as ultimates. The Twisted Advance will now be dropped as a Crash steps forward. No one gets locked down. Muujin will be able to land a Javelin Toss, but it all looks so good. Reiner diving in, but the Solar Flare doesn't connect, and Hollow does not have the time to dish out the damage onto Remini.
Not this time, and actually with the chunk onto Hollow in particular, taking away the flash.
Oh, look at Cog.
Sengoku looking... Oh, Ramina, you took too much damage there.
The TP as well. Flasher forward. The explosive cask will knock Pez towards his own turret. The Lucian gets taken down. So does the Samira. Paz will fall as well. V3 play the flank beautifully. They will find 4 kills for nothing, and they will turn their attentions towards the Baron.
Whereas the last couple of fights have been about Hollow. This Kai'Sa flying in. It's this time not about that AD carry. Ramina gets taken down so low, so early, and the fight goes handily to the side of E3 through some flashy plays from the mid-jungle duo of this Jason Nidalee. We've talked a lot about Ace's Jason in the past and how we thought it wasn't too impactful in these fights. This one proves it wrong. Where does this start? A couple of turret plays onto Ramina, which really set things off in the bad tone. You did talk about the cask. It didn't end up landing particularly in the best way for trying to kill Gango, but it doesn't matter. The extra movement speed from the form changing and the acceleration gate from Ace makes more than ample move speed to try and get on top of that AD carry, and Cog finds a great engage, which gets V3 a massive lead in this game.
Yep. V3 with the lead, and speaking of leads, I think a certain V3 has the advantage when it comes to the relationship breakup right now.
They were probably the ones that kept the friends in this parting of ways, but yes. Either way, Paz on this Renekton really struggled to make an impact because one of the reasons we don't see as much of this Renekton in some regions or so much success from this pick is if you don't get rolling in the early game, you lose a lot of value later. Gordrinker, yes, helps a lot. Going to Starks helps a lot. But if you don't manage to put down your lane opponent and win out that side lane and then use that, well, like we've been saying about all these towers, to get vision advantage, you don't have the same value you would think so going out of that draft phase. Because of Muujin's great defensive play in the early game, Paz's impact on this game has been stunted.
Yep. And Paz now 0-3-2, only 10 CS ahead of Cog, and V3 going with the 4-1 split push Gango, almost down to half HP from one shock blast. But here comes the Weaver's Wall, and Ace is locked in the culling, forces the flash away from Ace, and will chip Ace down. But Ace says, here, I'll just throw in a shock blast, even things up. Paz going in with the Cull of the Meek under tower. Cog will take a turret shot, but he's a tanky Gragas. That's what Beer does to you. It means you can absorb so much damage and without having to bat an eyelid or without having...
Maybe he'll feel that one in the morning. That's what we're saying. But Ace in that series of plays kind of channels his inner Master Chief. Thought I'd try shooting my way out, shake things up a little. And he goes right into mid lane to do exactly the same thing, demolishing a structure. And this 4-1 going into a 3-2 from V3 nets them a couple of the structures in the base, while Muujin is still sat alone with that bot lane turret. So they're probably going to get themselves a couple of extra angles into the bot inhibitor too.
Yeah, the question is, do V3 want to take both inhibitors right now and, I guess kind of allow the side of Sengoku Gaming just to absorb that minions, because so often, we talk about it. Do you want to take the inhibitor this early on, or do you want to just wait that little bit longer?
That's a good
Just so
question,
that when
Ryan.
you do get the inhibitors, you can take an objective with it.
Very good question, of course. We are one of these blasts from the past again. Just going to scrub through the video, find ourselves back to that gameplay. You know what? We're not going to... Yep, this is what happens when you do that and it doesn't load very effectively. We are back into the game. It was a momentary pause and Reiner immediately misses Leona ult.
Yep. And, well, that's going to be NT falling, Killer Instinct through, and another kill going the way of V3. Gango now being hunted down by Kok and Muujin. Body slam comes through. Muujin pounces forward. There's the Inferno trigger, but he can't quite heal up enough. Muujin will fall under the tower. Looks for a kill on to Crash, but unable to find it. And it will be 3 kills for 3. But Ace and Hollow, probably the 2 strongest members on the side of V3, they're still pushing forward. And one Shock Blast can do so much work. But both Nexus turrets will remain standing, but they are both very low on HP. And the Drake is up. Kog and Ace both have their TPs available as well.
Gonna go back into the replay, of course. This is one of the natures of bootleg broadcasting. Occasionally, you get some of these technical difficulties at the production end. We see what happens. You're talking about, what happens with when you're engaging with Leona compared to the Maokai? Well, Maokai is not really tanky when you go Imperial Mandate. Reiner is not nearly tanky enough even when you go with the tankier build though on the Leona, and does go down in return. Gango playing this to the edge. He gets taken down by one last Gragas Q. It's such a fracas, a back and forth, a bloodbath that 3 people go down either side and the game goes on.
Yeah, the game will go on. The Drake has been secured by V3. They are on the cusp of the Mountain Soul. And for Sengoku Gaming, they need something special right now because they're 2 inhibitors down. They're 5k goal behind. What do they need to do to get back into this game, Nymera?
Okay, so it's a little bit difficult because you don't have yourself Soul Point, and neither do V3. And you actually think, oh, wait, is it a good thing that V3 could get Mountain Soul? At least you could fight over Elder at that point. You might not win the team fight leading up to it, but if you get an Elder Dragon, anything can happen. And as it stands, Baron spawning in 1 minute and 30. They do lose them. They have no 2 inhibitors in that mid and bot lane, which means that they have to be fighting against those super minions. V3 have run on the map. Sengoku really don't have a clear run of play to get through. Maybe they're just hoping that V3 overdive and they get to capitalize on that.
And if you're V3, then at the moment, they're playing around the bottom side of the map and completely ignoring that top side. They want to go for the end. They want to go for the throw and find that finishing blow.
So getting some poke across the board, trying to get Shock Blast, W's, and the Ramune takes a chunk too. Kog has flash, has Cask Watch to engage.
Yeah, Kog just going to slowly push this in. V3 playing it patiently, waiting for that opportunity to present itself. That's an empowered Shock Blast, so much damage. Kog throws out a barrel, does some more damage. All the Javelin toss finds a Gango, and now the minions are crashing on to the Nexus turrets. Kog will take a bit as out comes the Weaver's wall, and the Leona is separated from the rest of the team. The Culling will run through Kog, and Paz will find his revenge kill. Reiner now on the run as the Empower gate is dropped, but the Shock Blast will not be able to connect. And we see the side of Sengoku Gaming, they find a defense.
Successful base defense from Sengoku. Yes, absolutely. Why is it being successful even when they do have a bit of this gold disparity, when they were against a single Drake advantage from V3 who had run on the map? Well, those Nexus turrets do damage and V3 can't dive past them. They don't get to dive in with impunity with the Killer Instinct, and it means that they have to funnel in to this Talia who is still doing damage, and the Maokai ult is pinning them into awkward situations. They try to get themselves onto the Baron, Sengoku teleport back in, and actually now they're starting it up, trying to throw this Hail Mary.
Yeah, Kok has a TP.
Teleport to the base.
TP in the fight as, oh, look at this. Ace is going to TP in and look at to end. Is there any way for SG to get out? Solar Flare will find all 4 in the Baron pit. Ace, can he be stopped? The Gragas is coming as well. Kok and Ace are onto the base as the side of Sengoku Gaming are trying desperately to recall, but they can't do it. The Nexus is on to half HP. Paz, can he find a defense explosive cast by some time? Ace knocking back the members of Sengoku Gaming, and the Nexus is taken down. V3 find their victory.
They find their victory with an ace in the hole. No Caitlyn involved. It's the mid laner from V3 instead. Double TP to backdoor this game.
I mean, our production highlighted the cock TP. I was keeping an eye on that. I thought Ace was going to be TPing back into the fight, but no. V3, someone made the call. Someone said, we can go for base. Maybe it was Reiner saying, I can hold these 4 down. I can stop them from backing. And he did that as if his life depended on it. The game depended on it. And they pulled it off.
They pulled it off, seeing that last phase of play yet again, but we will have more time to talk about this and that fantastic end from V3, understanding all the pieces in play after this break.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the desk. Swan, Milky in the middle, Nymera on the other end. Gentlemen, we just witnessed our final game of week 1. We do it in an unconventional way. We do the last 4 games live. first 4 games when we're able to, commonly within the next 24 hours. Sengoku Gaming versus V3 Esports. In the end, V3 Esports were victorious, meaning Sengoku Gaming fall to a surprising 0-2 start in week 1. However, it's all still to play for after this. Now let's go, gentlemen, into the match at hand. And first thing I want to touch on is Muujin's early game. This jungler has had back-to-back games where he's been pretty impactful on this Nidalee. What do you guys think about this Nidalee performance?
So this is something which I picked on really early in terms of like the first couple of dives coming through. It's like, okay, well, you picked into Renex into Leia. You pick Gragas, he's pretty survivable. You can go pretty tanky, has a damage reduction, has a free targeted dash. That's pretty nice, but it's still not really enough to save a lot of top laners from this kind of combo. So Muujin kind of makes up the difference and paths really effectively to be there on time every time. Again, it's the thing which I've kept coming back to, information flow. Muujin knows where the enemy jungler is, knows where the risk is, paths appropriately, doesn't fall behind in farm to do so, gets a flash out of the Renekton who overdives, and then gets a kill on them later on into the game. Muujin's early game kept Gragas in the game and made them very, very relevant.
Very true. Milky, anything to add on top of that? I think, or personally, I think Nymera did a brilliant job summarizing that.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would probably add is not just the knowledge of where Crash is in the jungle. It's also just understanding the lane state and knowing, hey, you've got this big wave that's going to crash in. So probably we're going to be seeing Crash looking for a dive. If there isn't that wave, then, Muujin isn't worried because you're not going to go for that dive when there isn't that minion wave. So, yeah, I mean, just to add on to what Nymera said, absolutely fantastic from Muujin.
We've had 3 Flash Wolf junglers. They've all performed beautifully on V3 Esports. Weird things are going on in the jungle for V3, but hey, we'll see how it keeps going. Gentlemen, now we must go on a little bit further into the game. We've already highlighted Muujin's early game was brilliant. The map and tower trades, dragon trades happening around the map. There was a lot of objective control from both of these teams in the early game. It wasn't a very bloody game for very long. There were only about 3 kills aside for the first 15 minutes, I want to say, if I can remember rightly. So it didn't open up until a bit later on in the game. What was happening around this map and why was it so important? Let's go over to Nymera first.
Okay, well, so I think for me, that the example of this is the second Herald and what happens after that point, because V3 get themselves the Herald, and they have a lot of strong individual members. They still have their Kai'Sa wave clearing mid, and I've talked about that a lot. A lot of AD carries right now kind of hold mid really well. Like, you've got Misfortune, Kai'Sa, Empowered Q just deletes waves. And it just felt like V3, much in the way of Season 4 Cloud9, just understood how their tempo was working, how quick they could kill towers. You've got a Jace who's really good at that. You've got a Herald in inventory too, and they end up splitting the map one way, taking a couple of towers. Before that, they'd taken like both mid towers and one push from the Jace too. And it seemed like every time they were going for these big incursions on one side of the map, they're coming away with much more than they were letting Sengoku have on the other side of the map.
Absolutely. And I mean, those early towers were so important for V3 actually finding more avenues into the game, wasn't it, Milky?
Yeah, and I was really happy with how V3 played the early game. They were able to get that early rift. They were able to get the first Drake. The second rift was great. It unlocked so much of the bottom side. Nymera and we discussed it on cast, the fact that, that unlocks the entire bottom side of the map to get that vision control. The only thing that I was disappointed from them was that after having unlocked that bottom side of the map in exchange for Sengoku Gaming having the top side control, is that they didn't secure the Drake. And in my opinion, they should have gone for the Drake because you kind of know Sengoku Gaming are never going to be able to rush down the Baron. They're behind you in terms of goal, rush down the Drake, and then go to Baron. And if Sengoku Gaming have made the mistake of starting Baron, you probably end up killing them and stealing the Baron as well.
Probably. You get 2 for 1 offer. You get to kill Sengoku, and you get the Baron, and you already got the Dragon. It's like a 3 for 1, but you only plan to get 1 for 1 at the time. Moving on over, let's before we get to the ending that we will definitely be talking about, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, let's just have a quick match up regarding our world's competitor, that being Ace, and a former competitor in the international stage, that being Ramune. Ramune coming into the LJL blew it up. He became very quickly the face of the mid lane over in the LJL. However, his recent last year left a lot to be desired, and so far it's been underwhelming. Nymera, What's going on?
What's going on? I mean, there are a couple of things which happen in this game, right? Because the first game of the day for Ramone played the LeBlanc, which is his favored champion, really. He's played that, and it's kind of out of meta now. You can play it in some matchups. I think it's okay into Zoe. I think it can be good versus Orianna, which is what he played it against. But if you're going to try and commit to 5v5s, you need to set up the map in a certain way to get picks before that happens. The Lucian is a very different kind of champion, where you are more of that, that dive-in threat, having that DPS, and it felt like on both of these champions, his old favorite, the LeBlanc, and then this more new pick, I guess he only played one time, as you actually wrote in the notes, back in 2017,
yeah.
that, and he didn't really succeed on either of them. Whereas Ace actually had a really, really good game on that Jace. Often we talk about Ace's Jace is kind of one of these things where you're thinking, okay, he's kind of fell back to it just so he can survive in lane. No, he was firing like 3-man Shock Blast, doing a really good job in the game. There was that one triple kill for Nidalee, which was largely set up by double Shock Blast coming in from the Jace too, in that mid lane just after that Baron kerfuffle into the mid to late game. And I think that Ace really outperformed Ramone, and that's not something which I was particularly expecting to see in this matchup.
And to pitch it over to you, Milky, you've heard us hyping up Arya in the mid lane, who is now on Detonation Focus Me. As I already had mentioned previously, Arya helped coach Ace when he went to Worlds. He was like, okay, help me get better because you're kind of the best at this. Do you think coming into the LJL, Ace's performance so far against Arya was very, very good, honestly. He survived. He even tried to find picks and tried to do things around DFM. How do you think he matched up against Ramone?
I somewhat agree with Nymera, but I have one minor disagreement, which is
Interesting.
I think the Lucian was picked up, and then the Jace was picked up as almost like a counter into the Lucian, both sides playing this aggressive mid lane matchup. And kind of what happened is nothing happened. It was just a farm lane, both mid laners getting strong. And I think what ended up happening from the situation that the game was in was that Ace on that Jace was able to do a lot more work than Ramone was able to do on the Lucian. And I don't think it's necessarily because Ramone played it badly. I just don't think he had the opportunity to do anything. I personally would have liked to see both Ace and Ramone trying to get a little bit of lane prior, which, I mean, in the matchup is difficult because they're both so aggressive. They can both clear out the wave so quickly and try to synchronize with the junglers for those ganks. But we never saw anything happening in the first 12 minutes, really. So I think both mid laners played well, but I think Ace just had the opportunity to really showcase his Jace, and that's what he did in the latter stages of the game.
And then, of course, obviously, like the first real play we saw from Ramone was going down bot to try and support that play when they killed Rhino onto turret, and then just the Herald went mid, and suddenly you've lost turret already. So the laning phase between those two marks was kind of already over at that point. It wasn't really Ace versus Ramone, it's just how valuable are you for your team? Ramone, not so much. Ace, quite a bit.
He's indeed showed it. And 2 for 2 with this Jace. They're a 1-on-1 with the Jace, but they've played it 2 times out of the 2 games in the LJL so far. I wonder, is this going to be something we're going to see more from this V3 squad? Talking about V3, we have to talk about this ending. The double TP, and this is so textbook DFM, as I put in the notes when it was happening. I was like, oh god, they've lost to DFM doing this to them a few too many times. Now they're doing it. Milky, over to you first. This is something that we're a little bit used to in the LJL. Not fully, only a few teams that I mentioned do this, but what was your reaction to this? Because I got to hear it live.
My reaction was, oh my god, what's happening? Base invade. But I mean, Nymera mentioned it as, V3 were, I think you mentioned kind of Cloud9-esque in how quickly they could take turret, in knowing how quickly they can take turrets, etc. And they knew, there's 2 turrets. I mentioned it on cast, 2 very low Nexus turrets. They knew, they would have known from that point, they're thinking, okay, if the chance ever comes for a backdoor, how quickly do we take down those turrets? And then the only thing that's left is a quick call. They pick up the phone, or more specifically, they just speak into the headset and they say, "Yo, Reina, they're all on the Baron. How long can you hold them there for?" It'd be like,
"Don't worry about
2
it.
minutes, right?
Let me worry about that."
Exactly.
And
that was honestly something. I mean, Nymera, coming over to you for this last little part. This feels like a level up moment for V3. Maybe this is a coaching thing. This is obviously very hard for us to speculate on, but we wouldn't have seen this particularly often out of the previous V3 squad. This is a new evolution. I don't know if it's the new players that have come in, or if it's just kind of an ecosystem change, but this definitely feels exciting if it's a sign of things to come.
I agree. I think that the V3 of 2020 summer going into Worlds was it nucleated its power into particularly Archer and Boogie to do a lot of their hard carrying. It feels like this V3 roster a bit more measured across the board. Mugen did a really good job of making sure Cogcog was in the game, and when Cogcog was in the game, the team fights from Gragas were very, very impactful. I'm looking forward to see how V3 work when some parts of their team are put under pressure, because that's when we're going to have to see what happens about their character, the test of character. Of course, they ended up losing against DFM. They didn't look bad in that game. I'm looking forward to see, though, because this is a new team, how do these players slot into their roles? And unlike the last version, which of course was very strong as well, having all of that power directed into Boogie and enabling them, can they, in a certain draft, in a certain way, just say, we're actually going to focus on this player differently this game and be more flexible across the board?
Absolutely, they did. And with that means we're at the end of the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. We have to thank Milky Cereal for coming in and really helping us out to cover these last two games. Milky, do you have anything you want to say, and maybe anything you want to shout out?
Absolutely love the show. Been a pleasure to join you too. Sengoku Gaming, please let Ramune play a champion that's actually in the meta so he can show what he's capable of.
Yeah, and of course, Milky, love to cast with you too. Really enjoyed it. Of course, check out the Twitter handles and stuff. Go follow him. He's a great guy.
Thanks. Helped us a bunch with this, and I think we've all worked with you at least once at some point, Milky, as we've definitely done a bunch of casting together, and it's always a lot of fun. But to bring it back, a little bit of housekeeping. We will be releasing our podcast this Thursday, which will be recapping anything and everything that happened this week, and maybe League's Outer World as well. If you've got any questions you want to ask us, you can hit us up over on our Twitter account. That's LJL officially unofficial, or you can join our Discord link right below this Twitch stream, where you can click it, join our Discord, and you will be able to ask your podcast questions in the podcast question section. But with that all said, for myself, Milky Cereal, our guest, Nightmare on the other side, and Initialize wherever you are, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all very, very soon.